The world just stopped spinning for hip-hop because what Kendrick Lamar did in Brazil wasn't just a concert, it was a declaration of war. Picture this: the air vibrating with screams so loud that the sound shook the streets outside the stadium, fans crying, fainting, and chanting Kendrick's name like he was a prophet sent to tear down the throne Drake thought he owned. But here's the twist: this wasn't just another tour stop. This was Kendrick's most vicious response yet to OVO's whispered lies, the sneaky narratives Drake's camp has been planting to undermine him for years. And the way Kendrick handled it: explosive, unapologetic, and absolutely merciless. Insiders are already calling it the night Kendrick ended, the OVO illusion, forever. Social media is in chaos. Clips of Kendrick dropping jaw-shattering lines in front of Brazil's loudest crowd ever are spreading like wildfire. Fans claim they've never felt energy like this in hip-hop history, and the crowd's roar, it drowned out the lies. But what exactly did Kendrick say that had even Drake's closest allies scrambling in panic? What leaked message surfaced just minutes later that exposed OVO's darkest secret yet? And why are insiders warning that this was just the beginning of a far bigger war? Stay locked in, because what I'm about to reveal will leave you absolutely speechless to understand why. Brazil's loudest crowd in history became the breaking point. We need to rewind the clock and expose the toxic buildup that led to this explosion. For years, OVO, the empire built around Drake, has thrived on controlling narratives, bending media outlets, and silencing anyone who dares question their dominance. Behind the polished hits and global superstardom, whispers of manipulation, payola, and blacklisting have followed OVO like a shadow. And at the center of their schemes, a quiet but relentless effort to weaken Kendrick Lamar's place in the culture. It began with subtle digs. Industry plants spreading rumors that Kendrick's reign was slipping, that his impact was fading compared to Drake's endless string of chart toppers. Fake reports claimed Kendrick struggled with label politics, that his tours couldn't match OVO's flashy global spectacles. But insiders later revealed those stories didn't just appear out of thin air. They were seeded by OVO's carefully curated PR machine. The goal? To paint Kendrick as an isolated, declining figure, while Drake sat comfortably as the face of hip-hop. But Kendrick wasn't blind to this. Time after time, he sent coded warnings through his music bars that felt like surgical strikes aimed directly at the OVO fortress. Yet every time he swung, Drake's camp doubled down with more calculated media spins, burying Kendrick's message under a wave of headlines and gossip. The world saw two giants coexisting on top of the game, but behind the scenes, the tension was volcanic, with every leak and every sub making the feud more dangerous. Now, enter Brazil. This wasn't just another stop on Kendrick's tour. This was strategically chosen, a country with one of the loudest, most passionate fan bases in the world. A place where OVO's media spin couldn't mute the voices of real people. Kendrick knew what he was walking into. He wasn't stepping on that stage to entertain. He was stepping onto a battlefield, and that's why the energy that night was unlike anything ever witnessed. Fans had seen the headlines about OVO burying Kendrick. They had heard the whispers about Kendrick supposedly losing his edge, but they didn't buy it, not for a second. And when Kendrick walked out, the stadium erupted with a roar so deafening it felt like an earthquake. The chants of Kendrick, Kendrick, drowned out the lies that had been circulating for years. For the first time, the narrative wasn't controlled by blogs or industry puppets. It was controlled by the people. But here's where it gets darker. Multiple sources claim OVO wasn't ready for what happened in Brazil. They allegedly had media teams on standby, prepared to spin Kendrick's performance as underwhelming. But when videos of the crowd's earth-shaking energy started spreading across social media, their entire strategy collapsed in real time. fans across the globe began calling out the OVO lies, demanding to know why the media had downplayed Kendrick's influence for so long. It wasn't just a concert anymore. It was proof that OVO's grip on the culture was slipping. The irony? Drake himself was reportedly in shock when he saw the footage. Insiders close to OVO claim TiVo's furious slamming his phone after watching clips of Brazil's crowd, screaming louder than anything he's ever experienced. And the reason for his anger wasn't just the crowd, was what Kendrick said on stage. Words that felt less like performance and more like confession. Kendrick wasn't just rapping. He was exposing. Every lyric was laced with venom, each bar an indictment of OVO's manipulation. He talked about lies planted in interviews, songs stolen behind closed doors, and betrayals that even fans never knew happened. People in the crowd claim you could feel the rage in his voice, like he was finally unleashing years of bottled-up fury. By the time he was done, fans weren't just cheering. They were screaming, like soldiers in a revolution. And here's the haunting part minutes after the show ended. A mysterious leaked message began circulating online. A message that directly tied OVO to a secret plot aimed at destroying Kendrick's reputation before his Brazil show even happened. Screenshots, voice notes, and insider claims all surfaced at once, turning whispers into undeniable proof. But what did those leaked messages really say? Who was behind them? And how did Kendrick's performance make OVO's secret plan backfire in the worst way imaginable? That's where the story takes its first brutal twist. The moment the lights cut and Brazil's crowd reached a volume so thunderous it could have shattered glass. Kendrick Lamar knew this was the night he had been waiting for. No more coded bars, no more subliminal shots. This was the public execution of OVO's carefully constructed lies. But the way it unfolded? No one, not even Drake's most loyal insiders, could have predicted how savage it would become. First, Kendrick began the performance with an eerie silence. He stood there for a full 30 seconds, staring at the crowd, letting the anticipation build until the tension felt unbearable. And then, with a smirk, he shouted into the mic, "Tonight, I bury the fake kings and I let the truth breathe." The crowd exploded, fans sobbing, throwing flags, some even climbing over barricades just to get closer. It wasn't a performance anymore. It was an exorcism of OVO's ghosts. Then came the first shock. Kendrick stopped mid-song, pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, and held it high in the air. "They told me I should never let you see this," he said. But lies don't survive when the truth is louder than the stage, and in front of 80,000 screaming fans. He began reading lines from what insiders now claim was an internal OVO email chain. The so-called leaked email revealed something chilling. OVO staff had allegedly coordinated with certain blogs and playlists to bury Kendrick's music from front-page placements, replacing him with OVO artists. Even more damning, it claimed that OVO's media team paid influencers to spread narratives about Kendrick falling off just before his Brazil tour. The intent was crystal clear: smear his reputation, lower the hype, and make him appear weak before he touched the stage. The crowd that leak detonated like a bomb. Brazilians online erupted with fury. Thousands of tweets slammed OVO for disrespecting their country, for mocking their loyalty. Within an hour, hashtags like #OVOLies and #Brazil with Kendrick were trending worldwide. Fans weren't just defending Kendrick, they were declaring war against OVO, promising that Drake would never sell out another stadium in Brazil again. The betrayal cut deep. Because fans realized this wasn't just about hip-hop, it was about disrespecting entire cultures. Insiders claim that when Kendrick saw the leak start going viral on the big screen monitors backstage, he improvised the most brutal freestyle of his career, right there in the middle of Brazil's loudest crowd. He spat, "You call my people noise, but they're my choir, louder than your numbers, louder than your liars." The entire stadium roared as if every fan became part of the performance itself. They screamed the words back to him, turning it into a unified chant that felt less like music and more like rebellion. And yet, the real shock hadn't even landed. Because while Kendrick was destroying OVO's lies live on stage, another piece of information leaked online that would make the situation far darker than anyone imagined. According to a source close to the tour, OVO didn't just smear Kendrick with emails and group chats, they allegedly tried to sabotage the Brazil show altogether. Claims surfaced of OVO insiders contacting local promoters, spreading fake warnings about safety concerns, and even threatening to pull funding from Brazilian festivals if they partnered with Kendrick. This wasn't just beef anymore. It was sabotage. And the fact that Kendrick still sold out the venue and turned it into one of the loudest crowds in history made OVO's alleged scheme backfire spectacularly by the end of the night. Kendrick's performance wasn't being hailed as just a concerted, it was being described as a cultural revolution. Fans said they'd never heard sound like that before, as if the lies were literally being screamed out of existence. But just as people thought the truth had been fully exposed, one final twist arrived before dawn, because when the dust settled, an anonymous whistleblower dropped a file so shocking that even die-hard Drake fans struggled to defend him. And the file. It didn't just expose OVO, it threatened to unravel everything Drake had built. What was in that file? Why did even OVO insiders begin panicking the second it surfaced? And how did Kendrick's Brazil performance force the industry to finally confront truths it had ignored for years? That's where the escalation begins. And the shocking reveal is far worse than anyone thought. The morning after Kendrick's Brazil show, the world woke up to absolute chaos. Social media wasn't just buzzing, it was on fire, choking under the weight of videos, leaks, and furious debates that refused to slow down. Clips of Kendrick's performance were everywhere. But something even more dangerous had surfaced overnight: the whistleblower file. And what it revealed made the supposed OVO lies look like child's play compared to the machinery behind them. The file, dubbed the OVO playbook by fans online, was allegedly a collection of internal strategy documents, financial records, and leaked voice notes that painted a disturbing picture of how Drake's empire maintained its dominance. The most jaw-dropping detail: according to the leak, OVO had allegedly invested millions into what was essentially a global disinformation network. Paid bloggers, fake fan accounts, and even entire YouTube channels existed with one goal: to manipulate hip-hop's conversation, steering it in Drake's favor while discrediting rivals. And who is listed as OVO's #1 target? Kendrick Lamar. The documents described campaigns designed to undermine Kendrick's credibility, pushing the narrative that he was too lyrical for mainstream success, bad for streaming numbers, and unable to headline global stadiums. One chilling slide in the leaked deck allegedly read, "Control the story and you control the crown." Fans were horrified, comparing it to psychological warfare. Suddenly, all the whispers about industry manipulation weren't just conspiracy. They felt like fact. But the most damning piece wasn't the strategy itself. It was a voice note. The audio, which fans circulated like wildfire, allegedly featured an OVO executive laughing about Kendrick's Brazil tour. The voice sneered, "He's chasing stadiums now. Cute. We'll drown him before the crowd even hears him." That single line ignited fury across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. People couldn't believe OVO insiders were caught mocking the very show that went down in history as Brazil's loudest, and just when you thought it couldn't escalate further, Kendrick himself poured gasoline on the flames. Hours after the leak went viral, he posted a single message on Instagram. The crowd was louder than the lies. No caption, no video, just those words written in stark white text on a black background. Fans went into meltdown. The post hit 10 million likes in less than 24 hours, with celebrities flooding the comments. Shaw wrote, "Louder." J. Cole simply dropped a flame emoji. Even icons like Rihanna reposted it with the caption, "This is history." Meanwhile, Drake remained silent. His camp issued no statements, no denials, nothing. And that silence only made things worse. Rumors swirled that Drake was holed up in Toronto, furious, scrambling with his team to control the narrative. But every hour without a response felt like another nail in the coffin. Fans began to compare the situation to a chess game where Kendrick had just cornered the king with a single move. And then came the second. Shocking reveal, the one nobody saw coming. Late that night, a Brazilian journalist dropped a bombshell report claiming to have spoken directly with one of the whistleblowers. According to this source, OVO had allegedly been working on a smear campaign set to roll out right after Kendrick's Brazil show. The plan: release a wave of fake headlines claiming the concert was half empty, that fans walked out, that Kendrick struggled to keep up with the energy. These stories were supposedly ready to go live across major outlets, except Kendrick's performance went so viral. So fast that the lies were dead on arrival. The strategy collapsed before it even began. Fans were livid. Hashtags like #OVO, exposed, and #Kendrick the Truth trended worldwide. People demanded accountability, calling on Spotify, Apple Music, and even Billboard to investigate OVO's alleged manipulation of the culture. Forums lit up with posts declaring that hip-hop had reached its breaking point. For years, people joked about industry plants and PR manipulation, but now they felt they had proof. And in the middle of the storm, celebrities began taking sides. Cardi B tweeted, "Brazil's crowd said it all. Energy don't lie." Meek Mill, once an infamous Drake rival, wrote, "Did y'all really think you could hide the truth forever? Nah." Even LeBron James chimed in during a live stream, saying, "Kendrick in Brazil. That was bigger than music." That was a movement. But not everyone was celebrating. Quietly, some artists tied to OVO began scrubbing their social media, deleting posts, and distancing themselves. Insiders whispered that smaller OVO affiliates feared being blacklisted by fans if they didn't sever ties. It was the first sign that Kendrick's strike wasn't just hurting. Drake Hit was dismantling the entire OVO image from within. And just when fans thought they had absorbed the biggest revelations, a final twist hit like an earthquake. A second audio file leaked, this one allegedly featuring Drake himself. The voice, which fans swore matched Drake's cadence, could be heard angrily ranting, "Kendrick, don't move like me. He don't sell like me. He don't deserve the crown. If we don't shut him down now, he's gonna bury us." That clip, whether real or fake, sent shockwaves across the internet. Fans screamed betrayal, critics demanded answers, and OVO's silence became unbearable. Brazil wasn't just a concert anymore, was the night. Kendrick cracked open the facade and forced the world to stare at what might be hip-hop's dirtiest secret. But if the leaks were that bad, what came next would be even worse. Because industry insiders began warning that Kendrick wasn't finished. That Brazil was just the opening shot in a war that would drag the entire rap game into the light, and the next battleground. It wasn't going to be a stage, what's going to be the industry itself. But how far would Kendrick go? Who would risk their careers by standing with him? And could OVO survive the mounting storm war? Was this the beginning of the empire's collapse? The answers and the reactions would split hip-hop in half. The reactions to Kendrick Lamar's Brazil takeover were nothing short of volcanic. Social media wasn't just reacting, it was erupting. Flooding with posts every second, creating a digital thunderstorm that refused to fade. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, every platform was consumed by one conversation. Had OVO's lies finally been exposed? And had Kendrick just proven once and for all that he was untouchable? Fans across Brazil took to Twitter first, their voices loud, furious, and unapologetic. "We screamed louder than OVO's empire," one user wrote, racking up over 400,000 likes in hours. Another viral thread showed fan-shot footage of the stadium quaking as Kendrick performed his freestyle aimed at Drake. Captioned, "This is what real history sounds like." The comment sections turned into battlegrounds, with OVO supporters desperately trying to defend Drake, only to be drowned out by waves of Kendrick stans yelling, "The lies are dead." TikTok exploded with clips of fans fainting, crying, and chanting Kendrick's name. A single video titled "Brazil Saved Hip Hop Tonight" pulled in 50 million views in under 2 days. Teenagers reenacted Kendrick's freestyle, while others mocked Drake by stitching OVO interviews with clips of the Brazil crowd screaming Kendrick louder than jet engines. But this wasn't just a fan war. The industry itself was fracturing in real time, rolling. Stone dropped an emergency feature titled, "Did Kendrick just shatter OVO's empire in Brazil?" Billboard published a piece suggesting Kendrick's crowd energy had shifted the global balance of hip-hop power. Even CNN jumped in with a segment questioning whether manipulation in the music industry had finally been dragged into the light. Meanwhile, hip-hop artists began speaking out, some cautiously, others fearlessly. J. Cole, long rumored to be a quiet observer in the Drake-Kendrick rivalry, broke his silence in a podcast, saying, "I watched the clips. That wasn't a concert, that was truth screaming through 80,000 voices. And truth always cuts through lies." Cardi B went even further, posting a video on Instagram Live where she shouted into the camera, "Y'all playing games with this man's name." But the world saw what happened. Ain't no spin, ain't no lies louder than that crowd. But then came the division. Some OVO-affiliated artists, smaller rappers and singers tied to Drake's label, started scrambling. Some publicly defended OVO, insisting the leaks were fake and part of a smear campaign against Drake. Others went radio silent, deleting photos and unfollowing accounts linked to the controversy. It was clear the OVO family was splintering, unsure whether to defend the empire or save themselves from the storm. Fans noticed. One viral tweet read, "Look at OVO's roster, half of them ghosted." That's not loyalty, that's fear. And the fear was justified. Concert promoters across Latin America began quietly reassessing partnerships with OVO artists, worried that public anger would turn shows into protests. According to one insider leak, 2 major festivals in Europe even paused negotiations with OVO acts, fearing they'd become collateral damage in the scandal. But the most stunning reaction came from Kendrick's peers. Nas tweeted a simple crown emoji, sending fans into a frenzy. Jay-Z allegedly told a private dinner audience that Kendrick just pulled the greatest checkmate hip-hop has seen in decades. Rihanna, who has kept her distance from Drake in recent years, reposted footage of the Brazil crowd with the caption, "Goosebumps, history." Meanwhile, Drake's silence became unbearable for his fans. Threads were filled with comments like, "Why isn't he speaking?" and "The silence is guilt." For an artist who built his brand on constant visibility, Drake's refusal to respond only fueled the flames. Some fans even speculated that OVO's team was in full crisis mode, trying to scrub more leaks before Drake could go public. But here's where it got even messier. Brazilian politicians began weighing in. One senator tweeted, "Kendrick gave Brazil a night of pride. To disrespect our people is to disrespect our nation." This wasn't just about music anymore, had crossed into cultural and political identity. The narrative had spun completely out of OVO's control. And now it was snowballing into something far bigger than a rap feud. Fans started demanding boycotts. Hashtags like hashtag mute OVO and hashtag cancel Drake trended, with thousands claiming they'd never stream another OVO artist again. A Change.org petition titled "Protect the Culture Stop OVO Manipulation" hit 500,000 signatures in just 48 hours. The movement wasn't just about supporting Kendrick, it was about tearing down what many now saw as a fraudulent empire. But then came the sharpest dagger yet. Insiders leaked that multiple high-profile artists were preparing to publicly distance themselves from OVO, afraid of being caught in the backlash. And one of those artists, rumored to be a global superstar who had collaborated with Drake countless times before, if that artist turned on him, it would mean total devastation for OVO's image. But who was it? Was it someone from his inner circle? Or someone Drake once thought was an ally for life? The suspense was unbearable, and fans demanded answers. But little did they know, the biggest twist of all was about to shatter the industry into pieces. Just when the world thought the scandal had reached its breaking point, the final blow arrived, and it wasn't just a crack in the armor. It was a full collapse. The whispers, the leaks, the crowd chants, they were all leading to this moment. And the twist. It came from someone no one saw coming at 3 a.m. A mysterious account dropped what they claimed was an exclusive voice recording of one of Drake's most powerful allies. None other than Future, the voice, chilling and unmistakable, admitted that OVO had been overreaching for years and confessed that he had warned Drake about Kendrick. You can't silence him. The more you push, the louder they'll scream. The internet went into meltdown. If Future, Drake's longtime collaborator, one of his most consistent allies, was caught on tape admitting he distanced himself from OVO's tactics, then the empire wasn't just cracking. It was imploding from the inside. Fans flooded Twitter with memes, captions screaming, "The betrayal begins." Others speculated that Future had secretly sided with Kendrick all along, waiting for the perfect moment to let the truth bleed. But here's where the nightmare turned catastrophic. Minutes after the Future audio went viral, the whistleblower returned with one final piece of evidence: contract draft allegedly signed by OVO's PR wing. The document appeared to outline payments to a global PR firm tasked with reframing narratives against Kendrick and J. Cole. The kicker? The dates lined up with the exact weeks Kendrick's singles had mysteriously vanished from top playlists. This wasn't just manipulation. This looked like evidence of systematic BLACK BALLING. By sunrise, headlines were exploding. Future betrays Drake. OVO's contract leaks could trigger industry lawsuits. Kendrick Lamar's Brazil show unmasks hip-hop's darkest secrets. The music world was in shambles. Fans argued endlessly online, some saying the leaks proved Kendrick had single-handedly dismantled OVO. Others insisting it was all fabricated smear. But one fact couldn't be denied. Brazil's crowd was so loud, so undeniable, that it forced truths into the open. The lies couldn't survive the noise anymore, and then another cliffhanger. The kind nobody was ready for. Insiders began whispering that Kendrick wasn't done. Brazil, they claimed, was only the first chapter. His next stop? Paris. And according to these insiders, Kendrick was planning something even more devastating, their reveal that wouldn't just expose OVO, but would shake the entire music industry to its core. Fans lost their minds. Threads exploded with speculation. Was Kendrick sitting on more files? Did he have proof of payola, streaming fraud, or industry blacklists? And if he dropped those receipts, would it end careers overnight? Meanwhile, Drake's silence had become unbearable. Even his most loyal fans started tweeting things like, "Say something, anything. The silence is killing you." Others begged him not to respond at all, fearing Kendrick had more ammunition waiting. Every second without clarity felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the ground to give way. The tension was unbearable, the energy electric, and the world held its breath. Because one thing was certain, Kendrick Lamar had lit a fire in Brazil that would not stop burning. And whatever came next, it wasn't going to be a rap battle anymore. It was going to be a war for the soul of hip-hop itself. But the real question, the one hanging in the air like smoke, was simple. If Kendrick really unleashes what's rumored to drop in Paris, will OVO survive it all? Or are we watching the empire's final days play out in real time? The answer is coming. And when it does, the fallout will be unlike anything the industry has ever seen. Stay ready, because the next chapter will be even louder. But just when everyone thought the night had reached its ultimate peak, the final twist dropped like a thunderclap. At the end of his set, Kendrick stepped back into the shadows of the stage. The stadium lights dimmed, and for a moment, the crowd thought it was over. Fans began to chant his name again, their voices echoing through the night sky like a storm. Then, out of nowhere, the giant screens lit up with cryptic words in blood-red letters. Truth always wins. More to come. The crowd erupted, their screams hitting decibel levels that rivaled jet engines. And in that instant, it became clear Kendrick wasn't done. Insiders are already whispering that the message is tied to a brand new track, one directly targeting not only Drake, but OVO's inner circle, with allegations darker than anything the public has heard before. Sources claim Kendrick has been sitting on unreleased evidence screenshots, recordings, and even a voice memo allegedly tying OVO to a massive manipulation campaign stretching back years. And here's the cliffhanger that's left hip-hop gasping. Was that cryptic screen reveal a warning that Kendrick is about to leak it all? Because if he does, it won't just destroy OVO's credibility, could dismantle the empire Drake built, piece by piece. The only question now is, will Kendrick drop the hammer before Drake even has a chance to respond?